Picture this. A tariff built to protect American factories ends up doing something nobody in Washington saw coming. It pushes Canadian aluminum straight into Europe's arms. As competition heats up for one of the most critical materials in pickups, SUVs and EVs, Canadian producers are realizing they don't have to play by anyone else's rules anymore. The battle for aluminum just went global, and Canada is standing right in the middle of it. Fresh trade data, expanding production, surging European demand, an ongoing tariff standoff. Together, they're rewriting the rules of this market. And today, we're counting down 5 developments that could shape not just the auto industry's supply chain, but the price tag on your next truck, SUV, or EV. Subscribe to Capital Current now for daily updates. Number 5. Canada fights back, the aluminum supply battle escalates. This fight isn't being decided in Washington anymore. Ottawa is making its own moves. Earlier this month, the federal government extended key steel and aluminum protection measures through 2027 tariff rate quotas, built to shield Canadian producers from a flood of cheap imports. It's a signal of something bigger. Governments everywhere are starting to treat aluminum less like a basic commodity and more like a strategic national asset. Why should you care? Because aluminum is quietly holding your vehicle together. Suspension components, transmission cases, wheels, battery enclosures, body structures, dozens of lightweight parts that boost efficiency and performance. Whether it's a V8-powered pickup rolling off an Ontario line or a battery electric crossover, aluminum is doing the heavy lifting, literally, by making everything lighter. Canadian officials are still pushing hard for relief from U.S. steel, aluminum, and auto tariffs as talks continue. But protecting the domestic supply is only half the story. The real twist? Where more of our aluminum is headed next. Number 4, Europe moves and Canadian aluminum demand surges. Here's a number that should turn heads. EU-bound shipments accounted for roughly 6 to 40% of Canada's monthly aluminum exports between April 2025 and March 2026. A few years ago, that volume was barely a blip on the radar. Now it's a trend line pointing straight up. The U.S. is still Canada's biggest customer, and that's not changing overnight. But Europe is fast becoming a serious second market, and that's a big win for Canadian producers. More buyers means more leverage, and more leverage means Canada isn't stuck negotiating from the back foot. What's the draw for European manufacturers? Reliable supply, a stable trading partner, and one of the cleanest production profiles on the planet. But here's the catch. Tariffs aren't really what's driving Europe's appetite. Something bigger is behind it. Number 3, Europe's green push, why Canada keeps winning. Europe's interest in Canadian aluminum runs deeper than trade politics. The real driver is decarbonization. And this is where Canada holds a genuine home field advantage. Much of our aluminum, especially in Quebec, is smelted using hydroelectricity, giving it one of the lowest carbon footprints of any major supplier in the world. As automakers face growing pressure to clean up their entire supply chain, not just the tailpipe, that hydro advantage is turning into hard commercial value. Manufacturers today are judged on the footprint of every metal, battery, and component going into a vehicle, not just the finished product. Low-carbon Canadian aluminum helps them hit regulatory targets and protect their brand at the same time. Meanwhile, Europe keeps pouring money into EVs, defense manufacturing, rail systems, renewables, and advanced industry, all major aluminum consumers. For gearheads, the payoff is simple. Lighter vehicles, better efficiency, sharper handling, longer EV range. And if demand keeps climbing at this pace, somebody is going to need to produce a lot more metal, fast. Number 2, Canada expands production, Europe wants more. One of the biggest developments in this whole story is happening right here at home in Quebec. Rio Tinto has begun commissioning its $1.5 billion expansion at the Complexe Jonquière facility, a project expected to add roughly 160,000 metric tons of annual low-carbon aluminum production, powered largely by hydroelectric energy and advanced AP60 smelting technology. The timing couldn't be better. Analysts are warning that Europe could face real aluminum shortages as demand climbs from EVs, aerospace and defense programs, renewable energy, and advanced manufacturing. That's a massive opening for Canadian producers. More capacity means more international contracts without giving up ground at home. But the real question isn't how much aluminum Canada can make. It's what growing competition for that metal means for the companies scrambling to buy it. Number 1, automakers under pressure, aluminum costs face new risks. Aluminum has quietly become one of the most strategically important materials in modern vehicle engineering, and Canadian metal sits right at the center of it. Full-size pickups use it to cut weight and boost towing capacity. Performance cars lean on it for a better power-to-weight ratio. EVs depend on lightweight structures to offset heavy battery packs and stretch every kilometer of range, from body panels down to the battery enclosure itself. There's barely a corner of the auto industry aluminum doesn't touch. The worry isn't that aluminum runs out. It's that premium, low-carbon Canadian aluminum is drawing more and more eyes from buyers on both sides of the Atlantic. Automakers that lock in long-term supply deals now could land a real edge on cost control, production planning, and emissions targets. And as competition tightens, that edge only gets more valuable. Connect all 5 of these developments, and a much bigger picture starts to come into focus. Verdict: the bigger picture, a global fight for Canadian aluminum. Here's the big takeaway. Canada isn't turning its back on the U.S. market. North America's aluminum supply chain is deeply interconnected and will likely stay that way for years. What's changing is Canada's leverage, and that's worth paying attention to. Canadian aluminum is moving into Europe in bigger volumes. New investment is expanding our production capacity. Low-carbon manufacturing goals worldwide are boosting demand for exactly what we do best. And governments everywhere are starting to treat aluminum as a strategic resource tied directly to industrial competitiveness. Canada is holding some genuinely strong cards. For automakers, that matters more than most consumers realize. Aluminum shapes vehicle weight, efficiency, performance, emissions compliance, manufacturing cost, and ultimately the bottom line. Whether it's a V8 pickup, a hybrid SUV, a luxury crossover, or the next generation of EVs, access to reliable, low-carbon Canadian aluminum could become one of the biggest competitive advantages in the industry. So, what do you think? Will Europe keep ramping up its purchases of Canadian aluminum? Should the U.S. hold on to that 50% tariff or let it go? Could this fight over low-carbon aluminum end up affecting the price of your next truck, SUV, or EV? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from fellow enthusiasts. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.